Hello, welcome to the Amdram Cam. With me here today is Joshua Potts, author, actor, and so on and so forth. What are you working on right now, Josh?
Right now, I'm working on a collection of short fiction, kind of similar to the last one I did, but different in some other ways. So I've varied the length of them. It was a bit of a challenge to me in that basically the length of each one doubles. So it starts with a really, really short story that's 100 words, little more than a paragraph, and then balloons up to something that's almost like a novel type, and that's the one I'm working on at the moment. But what I'm attaching to each one are kind of author's notes for each one, and what went into it, what I was thinking, what inspired it, and stuff like that.
Okay, so you're saying it's a bunch of short stories that kind of equates to a novel in total. Do they all connect in some way?
Only really in tone and theme. They're all quite comedic, horror type stories.
That's your niche, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Why? What's wrong with you?
I just find that the funnest genre. I think both scaring an audience and making them laugh is it's the most viscerally. It's most visceral you can reach an audience. There's lots of stuff that you can read or you can watch or whatever, and you can kind of enjoy it intellectually and you can think about it. But there's nothing like leaving someone in absolute belly laughs or scared to turn the page. That just really makes you feel like you've affected.
I think it's mean. I think you're lulling people into a false sense of security, making them feel safe and joyful, and then being like, oh my God, that guy just had his head chopped off.
Probably.
Which makes you very, very odd, but we'll just leave that out there. So you're also working on a book that helps other authors write, is that right? Yeah,
that was one project that diverged into two. So the collection of stories that I'm writing basically was that. So so I'm writing something that's a how-to for authors. Each chapter gives a challenge, an activity, a task, whatever you want to call it, that starts out very simple. It starts out as a 100-word story and then builds on techniques of how you insert character growth, how you do exposition and stuff like that. But in order to test that what I was doing was the right thing, I actually did those activities myself, and then I didn't want to waste those stories, so that became a collection in and of itself.
Okay. So if you did have some advice for newbie budding writers or wannabe authors, what would that advice be?
Finish what you do. I know loads of people who want to write and they kind of start something, they write a few pages, and then that goes away, and then you start something else. The biggest thing I found was write short fiction. I am working my way towards something novel length. That is the gold standard. Mm-hmm. But if you write something of 2 or 3 pages long, you're practicing. You get to find out how to start and finish a project, edit it, and also every time you do that, there's a little success. Whereas you can spend years on a novel and wonder if it's paying off.
For sure. And I think as a writer, you kind of go through those phases where you're like, write a few pages and you'll think, this is so good. No one ever had an idea like this, and it reads amazing. And then you completely hit a block, which you have to push yourself through. And then if you're able to do that, push yourself through that writer's block, you're like, well, this is rubbish.
I think it surprises people when they write for the first time how much of a zigzag there is in how impressed you are with your own work, and you can really go from wondering how you came up with something that was so incredible to reading something when who wrote this? Oh, it was me.
And then you bite off more than you can chew sometimes as well, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I honestly think the best thing I did for my own writing career was work on this kind of how to write, how it works, and stuff. And it really just started as a project for myself. It is a little bit different in terms of publishing it from what I've done before, because I've only done fiction before. But it really got me to study the fundamentals of it, and I feel like explanations of how to write stuff seem to be quite poor. I've done a lot of just exploring and looking for, how do I do this? How long should a chapter be? What should you do day to day? And I found very, very little that was helpful. So I kind of put this together myself. But you talked about biting off more than you can chew. That's why I have the stories get bigger and bigger and bigger each time. Yeah. So once I've done this, I will then start my first novel, but it will be a standalone novel. Right. And then after that, possibly a series, because
that's exciting.
Series is jumping in the deep end, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely it is. Yeah, for sure. I want to jump right in at the deep end with your show and tell over here.
Yeah.
So, first book coming up.
Shall I do these chronologically?
Yes.
Yeah.
I loved this.
So this is Terry the Terrible Elf. This is a collection of 2 stories. First thing I ever published in 2020 when I had a lot of free time. These are 2 Christmas stories about the world's worst elf, for young children, probably 6 to 8 year old. Quite light-hearted, quite funny. That's had good reviews.
Definitely. I feel like it's brilliant for kids who are obsessed with Elf on the Shelf. It's kind of like the cheeky story behind that, in a sense. Yeah.
It's related to it, and the thing that showed me that I'd succeeded in what I wanted was that at Christmas somebody opened a Christmas cracker. The joke was terrible, and they said Terry must have wrote that joke.
It's a pun.
Must have written that joke.
Love it. Love it. Okay, now how do you go from writing something that is so joyful and childlike with wonder? How do you go from that to what comes next? That thing. How did you get there?
I disagree with your assessment, because I think this is joyful and
in a sense, in a twisted sense, I think. There is a bit of childlike wonder in there as well, I suppose.
I find this fun in the same way that getting on a roller coaster is fun. This is The Monster at the Moonlight Hotel. My aim here was, if you're a fan of R.L. Stine and Goosebumps and those kind of things, that's kind of the wheelhouse I was going for. This is, I guess this would be considered a novelette. Horror comedy for, let's say, 11 to 13-year-olds, about a school trip to Cornwall at the Moonlight Hotel, and I won't spoil it, but there's a monster at the hotel.
That sums it up in a very nice little nutshell.
Yeah.
I mean, it is quite scary, I think.
My grandmother told me it was scary.
Yeah. It is. It's concerning.
Yeah. But yeah, I was very proud of this, and it is a big jump in length from that, and it's different in tone. But I get loads of weird and different wacky ideas all the time. So a challenge I may have is that I'll never really settle on too much of a brand, because I just want to do different things all the time. You
want to play around with genres a little bit?
If something catches my fancy, that's what I want to write.
Sure, that's fun. That's what keeps it interesting, isn't it? Okay, next book.
Well, the next one chronologically was not written by me. This was an edit that I did.
Oh, you little... Okay, this is...
Also, was it ever a pun that you chose Reed as your surname?
No, that's... you're opening my chest of secrets now. That's my birth name.
Wow.
That's my daddy's name.
Do you want me to put the book down?
Yeah, I do. Desperately. Okay. Celine. But, get it now on Amazon. This is about you.
Well, about me as well as an author. I'm also an editor.
A fantastic editor.
A freelance editor, proofreader. I did this. I did somebody else's novel kind of his memoirs, but that's not out yet. But that was a load of fun too. This was good. Nothing will improve your writing quite like going through someone else's work and changing it.
Yeah, and being like, oh my God, what was she thinking?
Exactly.
That's wrong. All of it's wrong. I feel like that must have been very stressful for you. I'm sorry.
That's not true.
Yes, what are friends for? Next book, please.
This was the most recent one published by me. This is Never Trust a Grave Robber. This is a collection of, again, short, humorous, scary fiction, although not all of them, and I think this does reflect there is a bit of a variety in this. There's a science fiction story here, there's a kind of whimsical fairy tale in here, there's a kind of spin on the Three Little Pigs that I did. It's like a detective has to investigate what's going on. Again, it got a little bit longer because that's my philosophy. I just keep trying something a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. And
is this the book that was based on a short that you'd originally done, like a series of shorts? There's a lady and like a gardening competition.
Yeah, yeah. So that's Almost Perfect, which is about a small town that has a very competitive gardening competition, which leads to a series of murders and backstabbing, and which I love that. I love things that are quite banal, but people take them far too seriously, and I just find that really funny. I actually wrote that along with a few things in here for a website called Readsy, REEDSY, which my wife found, and that was absolutely fantastic in that they do loads of things, but every week they post a writing prompt. Yeah. And I think for about 6 months, on and off, sort of towards the end of 2020, early 2021, I more or less wrote a short story every week, most of which will never see the light of day, but that was a massive, quick education of just churning out stories. And quite a few of them found their way in here, and a few original things.
Voila. So, as I mentioned before, you are an actor as well.
Yeah.
And you do get involved in amateur dramatics and independent films and things like that. Have you ever considered putting this kind of mentality of writing the horror genre and the quirky horror genre and turning it into like a really terrifying play or like a film?
I'd love to. In fact, the very first thing that I wrote and completed was a play, and then I actually I studied theatre at university, did the whole thing as a playwright. Of course, I have worked on amateur and independent films, as you mentioned, including yours. The next big thing I say the next big thing, there are loads of things I want to do, one of which is to start making my own films. This certainly would be the genre I would work in. I'm really excited to get really bloody with it and play with the effects and things like that. I would love to do something like that. It's a little challenge I've set for myself that this year I'm going to start to learn how to do that. Nothing would be feature length, nothing really that anyone would see really, but it'd be a lot of me messing about with the cameras with friends and just figuring out how to make a shot, really.
I mean, this is a platform for amateurs in all creative industries. So are you after anybody?
I'm after...
You're talking about cameras and things like that?
At the moment I don't know what I need, but I'm sure I need...
Nothing exists, this is all.
I'm sure I'll need a lot of help.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so going back to authors.
Yeah.
I find that there's all these kind of films, TV shows, and books even, where there's like the brooding author who has like a cottage in the woods and he turns crazy, kills a bunch of people to create his next novel. Do you see yourself like that in maybe like 10, 20 years? It's taken you way too long to figure that out. Like, maybe. Have I just created your pension plan?
No, of course not.
No. Okay, never mind. So where do you see yourself in... I know it's kind of an open-ended question, but as an author, where would you want to be in, like, 10 years' time?
the dream is obviously that I would write a book, I would collect my royalties for it, and then I would pay my mortgage with those royalties that month.
The dream. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
100%. Have you reached out to any literary agencies? You've got the likes of Curtis Brown is a really, really good one. Have you tried sending manuscripts in? Or are you just kind of freelancing at the moment, honing your craft and going from there?
I'm living vicariously through a friend who is also an author who has been picked up by an agent. So everything that I've done has been independent. It's something I've done a lot of research into. I've gone back and forth, weighing the pros and cons. At the moment, I'm just watching him and seeing how it goes, so that I don't need to risk anything, but I can make up my mind there. But I like the freedom of it. I like that I can be really weird, and I am a bit of a... I was going to say control freak, but I think that's wrong. I think it's more that I'm excited to get involved in everything. So no sooner had I started writing as I also became an editor. Some of these covers I've made myself.
Cool.
I'm looking into ways that I could sell my books without necessarily having to go through the monopoly that distributes them through my own means. So I think there's a what's the word? There's a satisfaction that comes through going to a publisher and being, having that affirmation it's been accepted and so on. But I also just love the freedom of getting weird and learning all these things.
Yeah. Because when you do have an editor, you've got the publishing company. Everyone's kind of leaning on you, hurry up, get it finished. So it's not always your best work, really, is it, when you've got someone doing that? Whereas because you're freelance, you really do have all the time in the world to perfect, well, in your own terms, perfect a book or a series of books or whatever it is you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very exciting, I think. So, final question.
Okay.
Amateur or otherwise, what would be your dream project?
Something that I didn't mention that I'm also learning how to do, as well as fiction and novels and so on, and movies and basically everything under the sun. I really like graphic novels and comic books, and something that I've been relearning how to do over the last year is draw. It was something I loved doing as a child. Probably haven't picked up a pencil in the last. Recently was shocked that that's kind of gone away. But I've started learning how to do that. I would love to do some sort of long running series where I did everything and I drew it and I wrote it and I distributed it.
I'm actually, I don't know if I should name drop without permission. I'm gonna. So I have a friend called James Twyman.
Okay.
And he actually designed the cover for Celine.
Excellent.
And he does exactly that.
Really?
So I will put you in touch
things?
with him. I don't know. Is doing well with one of his books.
Okay, cool.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I will Facebook you two together
and
see if you can't make friends.
Nice.
But yeah, fantastic. So 3 books, all available on Amazon. I'll put that link below. Would you like your social media links on there as well?
Yeah, sure. It's only really Facebook and Amazon that I use. I got burnt out on the whole social media thing, but I am available on Facebook. Joshua Potts, author.
I'll put that link in the bio. So buy his book so he can live his dream of becoming a psychopathic author in the middle of the woods, killing people and then writing about it. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much.